then it's time for the final topic of the show, ladies and gentlemen. And this one comes from our Patreon supporter. His name is
John
Lasseter. And he says Lass. And yes,
Well,
you're pronouncing it wrong.
You are watching Psych, huh?
It's a long one, so settle in. Here it comes. You ready? His topic is the importance of education for content creators when there is no barrier of entrance. Allow me to unpack this a little bit. In your Dynamite crossover episode with Kevin Smith, you talked about just go for it. Go out there, create, practice, find your audience. But as the inadvertent role models that you are, what is your stand on education? It requires no degree to post a video to YouTube, Facebook, etc. But I still believe that education is extremely important. Most of all, I think it gives you a wider perspective on life in general, and the process itself, mastering a craft, is an important lesson. I think all of us best friends love the historical and political aspects that Colin brings to the conversation, and I would think these aspects would be lost had Colin not attended Northeastern. There are, of course, financial aspects of the education in the U.S. that I can't speak my mind on, hence the name Lass. I had that part in. I do, however, realize that it can be a massive burden. Having served in Afghanistan, talking to Americans who were there, quote, doing their time, end quote, to earn a college education. I would love to hear all of your opinions on the topic, especially how mastering the art of shadowboxing propelled Nick's life to a better place. After spending 5 years in the military myself, I am now a third-year law student at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, about 18.02 kilometers from New Zealand. Thanks again, and heart from Lass. And yes, you're pronouncing it wrong. Lass Thompson. So he's talking about the importance of education, a college degree for content creators. Because we talk about just do it. Get out there and make content.
We do. I'm 50-50 on this one. It's easy to go out there and just do it. It's easy to do. You can do anything you want. But there's a difference between doing something and doing something well. And I think that in order to do something well, you do have to have a base of knowledge to some degree. For instance, if you want to go out there and write a story, if you want to be a screenwriter, it really does behoove you to learn screenwriting format and how people up until this point have done it. Now, you don't have to do it exactly like them, but they have the saying in screenwriting is that you need to learn the rules if you want to break them. And you know, they talk about Quentin Tarantino. Well, Quentin Tarantino knew how to write a screenplay. He didn't just write Pulp Fiction, right? He had studied other movies, and he didn't go to a traditional university. Guys like Kevin Smith did go to film school. I think he dropped out of film school and came back and decided he's just going to make his film. But he got some sort of knowledge, at least enough to know this isn't for me. This isn't where I want to be, or I'm not learning what I need to learn, or I'm not being inspired the way I need to be inspired. Having said that, do I think you need to go to a film school to do what we're doing? No, I think you can probably at this point use YouTube to get the equivalent to the education I got out of my film school, and you can probably do that in about 2 months. It's different for Colin and it's different for Greg, where they studied an actual. You guys got a little bit more practical knowledge, Greg at least you did, as far as journalism, and Colin for you for history. You were just studying something that you're passionate about, and there's nothing that I think can ever replace that. If you're going to go and you're in a program that you love and you're learning something and you're around like-minded people, that's going to make you better at everything, no matter what. If you're going to a film school and you don't feel like you're getting anything out of it, no, get out of there. Go get some practical experience on a set. Because at the end of the day, if you want to do something, reading about it's not going to get you there. You got to go out and you got to go do it, and you got to fail until you succeed. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I often say if I had to do over again, I'd go to a trade school for 2 years just to learn the basics that I learned basically at the 9 years of IGN, and then go out there and do it. But at the same time, you do have kids coming up that are just picking up cameras and making amazing things. Yeah,
and the important thing I think we're to point out when we say get out there and do it and make a podcast, I'm saying create content. I'm never saying quit your job, quit school, make content. I'm saying do it in tandem with what you're doing to get better.
That extra 12 hours at the end of the day that you have, do something with it.
I always talk about the fact, right, that like you're making stuff when you first start not to get 1 million views or whatever, you know, we're still trying to make 1 million views, not to get 1 million views, to learn how to do it, to get better at it, to grow, to, you know, it's a muscle, to train this muscle, to strengthen this muscle, so that you can land on your feet wherever you go and make the content you want to make. I looked at my phone there, which we're trying not to do anymore because we're trying to be better, except for when Nick has to talk to Kevin. I looked up the guy, Roger Pokorny. This is at Raj Former on Twitter, a pride of Long Island, like Colin Moriarty. This kid, I ran into him on the internet when he made a video about us leaving IGN, and it was his podcast, and it was him and his co-host talking at the segment about us, right? Turned it on. I want to say he's in high school. Sorry if I got that wrong, Raj. And you're watching it, and it's like, holy shit, this guy's awesome. This guy sounds like totally on our level. He could easily drop in, and he's doing in high school while going to high school, while going to school, while looking at college, maybe being in college, and not giving up on that part, right? All he's doing right now is getting the building blocks. Like Colin always points it out that, if anything, going and getting a degree in college, an undergraduate, right? Or high school maybe it was, just proves that you can do something. It proves that you can set out and accomplish something.
High school's not hard. College is the first thing that a lot of people do that's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
And that you have to really try. No one like I'm not diminishing that high school is difficult when you're there, but it's really not hard in retrospect. College was actually legitimately hard. And so I think that my mom always used to say, my mom who's a scholar herself and a very highly educated person who works at a university, you say your undergrad degree is just proof that you can do something.
Yeah.
For the first time in your life. Like you never really did anything. Mm-hmm. So this is you proving that you can stick with something for 4 years and leave and have something to show for it. I don't know. My whole view on education is that I think it's super important, but I don't think it should be prohibitive.
Yeah, I mean, like I look at creators that I admire, right? Guys like Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg dropped out of college.
Yeah,
he didn't finish film school,
but he got in there and tried it and started to. He understood where destiny was pulling, where his emotions were pulling, what he was going to go to.
And that's the thing that I think you're right. And Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard too, and But those are but I don't want people to be like, well, I'm in Princeton, and I'm like, don't
go to your mom right now and be like, Colin said to drop out of school.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you drop it, you have to be pretty foolish to drop out of Harvard. That was a real what him and Paul Allen did and all those guys, that's a pretty bold move, mm-hmm. And that's not going to work out 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work out the way it worked out for Microsoft 1 out of a million times. It'll work out like that. So I'm not saying that you should do that, but there are a lot of examples of people leaving college or not needing college. That said, I fully encourage people to go to college. And I think that it's just that the barrier of entry has lowered itself in terms of just producing, I was thinking about it, it was funny in my head when you were talking. I was like, well, the barrier of entry has diminished for what Nick does with film. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, the barrier diminished for what Greg does with journalism. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, but the barrier is this just as low for history. It's and then I realized the barrier is just low for everything. You can read and write and do whatever you want, make your videos, make your podcasts, do whatever you want for whatever field you want to do it in. But I think that your chances of success, at least commercially, are just demonstrably higher if you stay in college. People, as I've talked about in the past, college isn't necessary, and I think that we have an overemphasis on college. I don't think there's anything wrong with the person not going to college. I don't think there's anything wrong with the person going to a trade school or learning a trade. In fact, I know dudes back on the island that are air conditioner repairmen or do whatever they do. They lay down carpets, make fucking way more money than I'll ever make. So it's not like a there's a practical application to those kinds of trades. Sure. But I don't want people to get caught up in the fact that I don't have to go, because the fact of the matter is at the depth of the American recession in 2009, the unemployment rate was 10 or 11%, but for college graduates it was 4%, and that's a loss on a lot of people. The college the unemployment rate for college educated people was really low.
Yeah, I was like,
and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I don't think it ever got higher than 5.5% for college graduates, and that's just because there is a barrier to entry in terms of maybe some more secure jobs or things of this nature. Again, it's an amorphous and kind of nebulous thing, but I don't think it's necessary. But I do encourage people to get an education, because I think that college is important. It's an important social thing. It's an important. We talked to a gentleman before. And you were talking about to UC Irvine and how it's a commuter school. Mm-hmm. I was happy that I went to Northeastern because everyone lived there.
Yeah.
And
that was a great experience for you.
And that's just an important social experience for me. I met all my closest friends from college. I lived with Ramon and Kevin and all these guys that we're going to meet as characters on this in the coming months, especially Ramon. I met them because of that. I didn't meet them in class, or anything like that. So it's I want people to get that. I can't imagine what I would be like if I didn't spend 17 to 22 at Northeastern. I don't know what kind of person I would be, even though I'm fucking in debt for it. Yeah. And I do encourage people to look and carefully consider the money you're spending. Yeah. Don't go to a private university like Northeastern if you can't afford it or your parents aren't paying for it, because
yeah, see that, and that was me. I wanted to go to USC. I was midway through my freshman year, I was I don't want to be a computer science major anymore. I was trying to be a computer science major. I was undeclared, and I took one lab, and I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not passionate enough to learn this stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. And eventually I found film, and I'm like, I should be honest with myself. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But at that point, I had already screwed my GPA over, so transferring to UCLA was impossible. And then trying to get into USC's film school is really, really hard unless you kind of went straight into that. Plus, it's also $45,000 a year at that time. I think it's probably more now. And I just couldn't rationalize that. But I also did not have a defining sense of exactly what I wanted to do. And I always envy guys like Tim, and I wish Tim were here because I think he could speak eloquently toward this, in that he's just sort of grew up and was like, I want to make videos on the internet. I'm a huge fan of this. I want to be a part of that community. I want to be an internet superstar, and I'm just going to do that. And for me, I kind of just screwed around a lot and didn't really like dedicate myself or devote myself into anything. And I think in that sense, college did work for me. In that I came in not really passionate about what I wanted to do or knowing what I wanted to do, and I found it. And I found myself. And if I'm being honest, I found myself in film. And I sat in that first film class, and I think it was Film Theory 101. It was a very generic class. Like this is sort of the history of like film in the 20s and like all those like the phenakistoscope and all that stuff and Edward Muybridge and all that. All those old stills that you see of the horse jumping and things like that of like how film originated. And I was like, this is fucking fascinating. Why haven't I been studying this? If you know what you want to do and you really, really know what you want to do and you're set on it, even if that changes, you owe it to yourself to go explore that. But I think that you can get a pretty good base knowledge just with a little bit of education. Try it. I mean, if 2 years into it, you're like, I'm not really getting what I want out of this, you can always leave. But if you want to go make movies, for instance, there's, it's a conundrum because there's no better way to do it than just going out there and doing it. But how do you do it? Well, a great way to actually start is to make connections in film school that eventually are going to be the guys that hire you later in life. Case in point, I went to school with a good friend of mine named Ryan. He started
Ryan Philippi.
No, that'd be awesome if I went to school with Ryan Philippi. No, this is Ryan Creasy, my good friend, who just had a baby.
Greasy Ryan Creasy.
But he and I were friends. He was a computer science major. We've been friends since forever, and he was the one that got me the job at IGN. And so, like, because we had that great relationship, because we had kept up in college and we lived together, that those kind of relationships that you form, especially that early on when everyone's scared and everyone's looking for an edge in life, those can be very, very, very important, and those can be lifelong relationships that you guys form. I still talk to Tyroot.
Yep.
Tyroot and I went to college together. We met because of film school, and I got him a job at IGN, and now, we get to collaborate still, even though we're outside of IGN. We want to get him on the show, and we still talk, and we still hang out. And so that can be very, very important as far as, especially if you're trying to do the traditional mainstream route. As far as barrier to entry for internet video goes, I mean, there's a billion people doing internet video. So I would say, how do you do what you want to do, but try to figure out a way to have an advantage over other people. And
exactly. Have a plan. Read the YouTube creator playbook. I mean, do your homework on this even. But again, don't do it and just quit and bail like we did.
Yeah.
We started this and did it for a long time before it became all we do.
That's very true. And we had, and I don't think that there's never an even playing field. There's never a level playing field, I should say, with anything. No one starts off, like, life is not fair. No one starts off without an advantage and disadvantages, right? We had arguably a pretty good advantage in that we all sort of cut our teeth at a place like IGN.
Yeah.
Where we were allowed to fail in an environment that was inviting and positive most of the time. I mean, there was always some times when it wasn't so great, but that's any business. But for the most part, we were allowed to experiment. We were allowed to do stupid shows like Up at Noon that became a thing, or April Fool's videos and things like that. I was allowed to hire crews with budgets that didn't exist because my boss was cool and was like, here's, a couple $1,000, throw at it, go rent an Alexa, go shoot it with this thing. It's just a cool camera. But that we use that as an advantage to then take our passions forward. So I would say look for those advantages in life, and that advantage can be school sometimes, especially if you go to the right department and you meet the right people and you find collaborators who, like these guys, are cool enough to share this cool experience with you going this journey going forward. Because you can't do it by yourself. I guarantee, even if you're gonna do what Greg's saying, where you come home every day and you want a podcast, if you're just by yourself, you're gonna burn out so fast. And I've said it before, like, I'm fortunate to have you three, and now Kevin. Because you guys are the motivation. I was tired on Monday and sick, and I came in and you were smiling, and I was like, all right, I'm back.
Then I probably yelled at you a few times.
You did. You yelled at me about something. But I came in today and you were like super happy, and I was like, all right, we're all happy again. That's cool.
I wasn't mad at you. I just that's my February resolution. I'm not gonna be as mean to you.
It's okay.
Even in a joking way.
You can be mean to me though. I think that
I'm nicer to you too. You fucking dick.
I think that, like, what Nick's saying is, like, spot on, but I think that what people need to realize too is that, the division of labor, I think, is really important too. For instance, what Nick does for us in terms of the look of the videos, and he doesn't cut so much anymore now. We have Kevin, whatever, but he's going to cut our biggest videos. I mean, he cuts the ones that, like, really need
your 100
an eye.
pencils.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that I'm not super convinced that you can learn on your own as effectively as it was being taught to you, but you can learn it on your own. And I think that is, like, for instance, like, what we do with this business, I learned nothing in school that helped me for this business, but Nick did. And so you have to like, and so like you have to kind of look at it as like, what do you want to do specifically, and how best can you educate yourself or prepare yourself for the thing that you want to do? Because we all do different things here.
Sure.
Like when we were at IGN and then they gave us an opportunity, and I'm thankful for that, to be in front of a camera. The fact is that no one ever once came up to me and told me what to do or how to do it.
Nope.
Ever. Not
Nope.
once. And
never
like,
once. We never trained anyone.
No, and I think that like it's, you know, like the first time I was in front of a camera, it's like, do your thing, and I got used to it, and I kind of tried to emulate Greg, and that didn't, you know, that worked out to a degree, but then I became my own person and kind of Greg's, you know, lieutenant or whatever, where it was like we worked together. We weren't the same person. We were actually quite different. And that came naturally. But
Gary.
That came through experience. And so you have to just try to do those things. I think I'm actually really good on camera, but I wasn't. And the fact is that no one taught me anything or gave me any practical knowledge to get better.
It's so funny because I don't remember either of you ever being bad on camera.
I'm sure we were at some
point.
Well,
it's because there was no bar to set it to. There was no example of this is good and this is bad. I mean, you figure Damon had a few months lead on everybody, right? And that's always the funny thing. Everybody always gives IGN shit for, and us obviously as part of that as being offsprings of IGN, is starting videos is what's up everybody.
Yeah.
And like everyone, and like that's the same thing. No one trains anybody when you bring somebody in, so everybody just starts at what's up everybody, and everybody's. I get credit for that a lot. That's Damon.
Yeah.
Damon was the first editor on camera, and he started What's Up Everybody. So when you took random editors and put them on camera, and they were like, "What's up?"
No one told them what to say. They were like, "What's up everybody?"
We were emulating each other. That's the point. Is that it took time.
Yeah,
it took a lot of time.
That's a really, 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 really key aspect of all of this. I heard an interesting thing the other day. I've heard it before, but it resonated with me finally the other day. Where they were talking about it. I was watching some report talking about they were interviewing an actress. I think it was Emma Stone or someone like that, where they had said
Lucille Ball.
You know, how does it was definitely Lucy and Desi. No, they were saying, what does it feel like to be an overnight success? And she goes, there's no such thing as an overnight success. I've been acting for 15 years. Like I've been going on auditions, doing small bits. I just now became a part of the public consciousness because of this role I had in Superbad, right? Because that was the thing. It might not be Emma Stone, so don't quote me directly on that. But you get the picture in that if you're going to go out there and do it, know that this is a long, long, long road ahead of you. So A, you better love it. And B, you better have people around you that are down for this road trip with you. Because if you don't, it's not going to work. And that's not a bad thing. Some things fail. A lot of things fail. I used to have a business before I came to IGN. It totally failed.
What was the business?
It was wedding videography. I hated it.
Shadowboxing.
It wasn't shadowboxing. That you can't make money on shadowboxing because you can't capture shadowboxing in a box.
You see what I'm saying? Box your way right out of it. I see.
You just box your way right out of it.
I see. All right.
But yeah, just so have patience and find a group that you can collaborate with, and just keep grinding and set goals for yourself. And that's the other thing with college is that it does teach you to be more goal oriented.
Yep.
If you're not a person that gets up every day and goes, "We're gonna do this," like Tim is that guy. Tim's like, "Let's go make a video. We're making a video this weekend," and I'm like, "Dude, I don't make a video this weekend." If you're not that kind of person, go to college, because college will at least put milestones in front of you that you have to achieve.
Yep.
And that's very, 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 very important. I was talking to my buddy Brennan, and we want to do another short film. We want to try to do a short film for Horror Fest, New York Horror Fest, which is happening next year.
Phobia 2.
And totally. Mike Oransky special. And I was talking to him, and we both realized we came to the conclusion that we're like, if we don't have a goal, a deadline for this thing, it'll never get done. So I'm like, the most important thing is having those goals, those little mini milestones that you can put in front of you. And college kind of helps teach you that. You have, midterms. You have, what the hell do they call them at the end of the semester?
Final exams.
Finals, right? All those things help structure you, and you can take that forward with you to help motivate you in life. Because let me tell you, when you're a content creator, it's all self-motivation. I mean, this guy is, and no offense to Colin, but this guy is the single most motivated human being I've ever seen on this planet.
Not offended at all. I would say the same thing.
And like, sometimes I literally, like the other day, I wanted to pull you aside on Monday, but or I think it was like Friday. I'm like, dude, are you sure? I know that you wanted to go to the charity event because it was the right thing to do, but I was like, are you sure you want to go? Because you were fucking dying, man. Like you were tired, and I could tell you were burning out. But it's because you love this so much, and you are that self-motivated person. Whereas I think Colin and I are a little bit more like, let's get the work done and compartmentalize, and maybe just kind of watch X-Files at night.
I need time. I mean, I've always admired. I'll never be like Greg because I fear the burnout, and I've seen it from Greg. I know Greg better than pretty much anyone on this planet. I think that like I've just seen it, and you don't want to see it, and it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's just like he burns out, and I don't want to get to that point where I'm like, I just fucking don't want to do anything,
right?
Like, and so I work really hard. As Greg knows, I get a lot of my work done like at night, like just randomly, like late at night. I'll just sit at the kitchen table and just start like doing shit. But like, I think that to me, one of the things that we haven't touched on, I think is essential is, for me, I think the the understanding of doing things for the right reason is important too. The example I give is, don't do internet video if that's what you want to do to be famous. Because I don't think that that's an effective way to go about your business. You become famous, and I'm not saying we're famous because we're not, but you become famous, you become well known, or you're good at what you do because the people out there like what you do, and that's what's important. And that's the one thing I keep in my mind every day when everyone's like, "Oh, I love you and I appreciate you," and get really nice tweets, and you take that stuff for granted, and it become easy to get a big head. And every day I diminish myself and my own abilities in my own mind to be like, "You're not that great." And,
you're no Emma Stone.
No, I'm not. But I have to tell myself, I'm like, you know what, Colin? You are lucky.
Yeah.
You are blessed. You have a little bit of talent, and you had a lot of luck. And you better fucking never forget that. You know what I mean? And that's what I tell people all the time when they're like, "Man, you're so blessed. You must have been a great writer at 16 or 17 or 18 to get a job at IGN as a freelancer that young," and stuff like that. I'm like, "Hey, listen, I was a good writer, but you know what? It could have been any one of 100 people in that group of people I was writing with the Game Facts, and it was me. And I know that on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday, they'd have found someone else, and it would have never happened."
Yeah.
And so I try to keep that stuff in my mind where I'm like, I don't chase fame, and I'm not even sure I want it. I just want to make sure that the things that I do resonate with people as much as possible. And if they're happy, I'm happy. And if they're not happy, I'm not happy. And that's basically it. Because I know that tomorrow it can disappear, and you better not get too attached to it. You know what I mean? True. And so like that's the one thing that I try to keep in mind, is to do things for the right reasons. I make content not to make content. I do make content because I really do believe that people out there want it. And if there's no market for it, there will be no market for it. And then you don't want to base your self-worth on your own fame or your own inflated form of ego, whatever. Which is why I try to be as thankful as possible. I try to be as humble as possible. I don't. I just want people to remember that it's easy to get an inflated sense of self-worth because of the things you do if you do a big video or whatever. But man, I look at some of the videos we do. I talk all the time. I'm like, Tim has a lot more insight into this than I do because he's just a lot smarter with this stuff than I am. But where I'm like, I don't understand why this video didn't do well and this video did do well. And if you just focus on the video that did well and not the video that didn't do well, then you learn nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. And that's like what. So I'm just trying if you want to be an historian, you want to be an archaeologist, you want to be a writer, you want to be a journalist, you want to be a video creator, you want to do it because you love it and you like to do it. Don't do it because the end result is 100,000 views. Don't do it because the end result is a huge book deal. Don't do it because the end result is you're going to, I think context is really important, and keeping kind of yourself in check and your own motives in check is really, really important.
Especially don't do it. What he's saying is don't do it for the money, and don't do it for the money, especially
do it because you love it.
The ad rev on YouTube is terrible.
To school.
Yeah, don't. I mean, that's what we said.
They take 50% of everything.
With I was saying on Colin Moriarty Live that the PAX East panel is 100,000. Why we exchange $100,000 for 100,000 subs, and I think it's a really clever name for the panel that Greg came up with. And the fact of the matter is, if we were doing this for fame or for money, we wouldn't have left IGN because we were more famous with a bigger platform at IGN and we were making more money. And when everyone was I was saying everyone's like, "Oh, they made $25,000 each." I'm like, no, Greg was making $100,000 a year.
Don't blow the panel.
You know what I mean? And that's
giving it away for free over here.
And so that's the thing. You got to find the right reasons to do things.
Right.
There can be happiness found in a little cottage on a mountain somewhere making no money. Someone can find happiness there.
There's no internet there. It's not fun.
I don't know. I just want people to keep in mind that you're gonna try to do things and you're gonna fail at them sometimes, and just that we're self-aware enough and aware enough. Just generally, it's not even self-awareness; it's just awareness that we are blessed and lucky because there are a lot of people a lot better than us doing shit like this that don't get the notoriety we do, and it's because of a right place, right time kind of luck. That you have to just remain grounded. You know what I mean? That's really important. I always tell people that the reason we work is because like Nick was saying before, and I think the reason we work and we're special in this space is because we really are a strong team. And I often think about, teams win championships, and the weak it is a contrived sports thing. And I played hockey, and I know because they say the weakest link is really the biggest deficit to a team. And so just keep certain things in mind. Stay grounded. Stay disciplined. If you want something, chase it, but chase it for the right reason. Chase it for a love of the game. You know, not for the contract that you're gonna get because you're good at it.
Yeah, and I think again to sort of reiterate Greg's point, and we are getting long in this episode, but it's good. It's a good episode.
Yeah, go ahead and reiterate the same thing I already
said. I'm gonna iterate. Should I reiterate?
Yeah, reiterate.
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 I'm gonna re-say what you said.
Okay.
which is that you can do both. You can go to college and you can also create, and in most instances you should do that. And here's why: because production's really hard. And production, when you start getting up to working on commercial work or doing anything that involves travel, you're getting to like 12 to 18-hour days sometimes. If you can't do that now while you're going to school, and you can't find time to make a podcast for 2 hours and figure out how to get it on YouTube, you can't find that motivation in you. This is probably not the right thing for you.
And that's okay.
That's okay. And that's fine. But we used to come over here and start this show at like 8:00 at night, and that was hard, man. It's hard. Like I would look over at Greg, and Greg would be like off in a different world. I'm like, it's time to wrap up, Greg, and I'm sending you the mental like, hey man, wrap this segment.
And I'm like, no, reiterate the same point.
You're like, reiterate the same point.
No, I think
asshole.
I
was gonna be nicer to you this month. I don't mean to. It's a joke. I'm joking. I love him.
No, but I'm saying like, and that's the thing you guys have to realize is that it starts and ends with you. If you stop listening to this right now after this episode's done and Greg's done pitching all the stuff that he's gonna pitch on at the end of it,
the rigmarole, and
you immediately do something that it takes a positive step toward creating a video or to creating something, then this is probably the right track for you. If you internalize this and go, interesting, and move about your day, that's okay. But
apply to something else.
Know that this takes, a huge amount of self-motivation to do, as does all creation. And know that has to start with you. No one's going to come in and tell you what to do. They're just not going to.
And that's a great point, just in the sense that I think about my own experience at NU when I was there and like how fucking busy I was. And I really don't know like where I got it from or how I found the motivation where everyone was always, I remember my friends and a lot of people in college are like, they take the afternoon classes or they start 11:15 or whatever. I would take 8 a.m. and 9:15 and 10:30 a.m. classes because I'm like, I need to get this shit out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then I need to dedicate 5 or 6 hours to writing the strategy guide. And then, it's snowing and I'm going to go do snow removal to make money on the side. And then I got to hang out with my girlfriend. Then I got to do my homework and all these kinds of things. That was my life, at Northeastern. Like I worked a lot. And like, if you have to find that kind of motivation to get your classes out of the way, to do all those things. And I still found time to party, and I still found time to get fucked up, and I still found time to be like, do all those things that college students do.
Yeah.
But it was a matter of, you have to be motivated, and it's, if you want to be a chemist, you have to be motivated. If you want to be a mathematician, you have to be motivated. If you want to be a journalist, you have to be motivated. If you want to do this, you have to be motivated. I don't think it's any different. It's just a matter of where you funnel it. And the other important thing to remember, and I think this is really true, is that the old adage is it takes about 10,000 hours of doing something to become really good at it. And that's true. And I think about how do we become so good at podcasting? How do we become? Because I think we are. I think we're really good at Greg and I are, especially, Nick's newer and Tim's newer to it, and we're all good. But how did Greg and I as a unit become so good at podcasting to the point where like Colin and Greg Live needed literally we didn't even talk about the show before it started. It just was what it was, and we did it. Well, it's because we fucking did it forever. How did I become good at writing about games, or how did Greg become good at writing games? Because we did it forever. So also be patient with your own limitations. Because when I go back and read some shit that I wrote 10 years ago, it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just I read some stuff that I wrote when I was in high school and college, and it's great. But I read some stuff where I'm like, and so I don't want to like act like that.
I know.
Sometimes I'm surprised when I read some stuff I wrote on GameFAQs when I was like 15. I'm like,
good.
actually, this is pretty good. But there's some stuff where I'm like, man, you had no idea what you're talking about. What a dumb thing to say. What a dumb thing to do. Why did you structure it like this? Where's your fucking Oxford comma? And like, where's the paragraph break and all this kind of stuff? It's like, and it's the same thing with making film or making video. It's like, be patient with your own limitations because you're going to run into limitations, but you overcome them by dedicating the time necessary to overcome them.
Yeah, part of the fun of putting things online is that they are there forever.
That's why the BYWF tapes aren't.
Yeah, that's what's happening. It's gonna happen.
Nah, I don't think we should do that.
If Greg doesn't do it, I'm gonna do it.
No one knows where to find them.
They're somewhere in this house.
It's not a very big house.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 3 best friends gather on this table, each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, you can get the whole show early over at patreon.com/kindafunny. You just go to kindafunny.com. If you don't want to give us any money on Patreon, that's totally okay. Go to youtube.com/kindafunny. Get the show topic by topic, day by day, until the entire thing's posts on podcast services and youtube.com/kindafunny each and every Friday. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
It's been fun.
I think we've been saying for a long time. Colin danced around. He said, the weak link. I think it's clear it was Tim.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be Kevin, but Kevin is holding up his end in the bargain.
Kevin's destroying. Tim over here, though.
He's 10 hours into his job, so he's looking good so far.
What's amazing is I keep going over to like reference, because Tim and I always throw each other looks every time someone says something ridiculous, and I just lock eyes with this box of tchotchke.
Yeah, our giveaway box for
And
Colin
really, at the
Greg
end of the day, you don't even notice it.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.